I'm Jim Aune, and I have been here for 40 years as of November 2nd, and it's home sweet home.
What few people know is that there's been an Aune at Phillips ever since the 1930s. Jim's father, Ed Aune, had a long and illustrious career at Phillips, beginning up in Duluth in the 1930s with the DeSanto Company, ending up in Minneapolis. I believe his career ended in the late 1970s. And that continuity of an Aune at Phillips, maybe the company should be called Aune & Sons.
I got out of the Air Force in 1970, and the economy was about the way it is right now, and there were no jobs. And my mother suggested that I go to Phillips. I said, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be there with Dad. But it got to the point where if there are no jobs, take what you can get.
His dad got him a job right out of the service, working nights so he could go to college during the days. He
was hired on November 4th of 1970, applying to become a warehouse helper at the hourly rate of $3.68, which is actually not that much less than he makes now, which I think is about $4.12. And he wanted to work in the transportation department, it says, because, I quote, because I'm interested in transportation and routing, and that's what I do.
And I said, I'm just going to stay there a short time till I can find something better. And it's 40 years later, and I haven't found anything better.
When I peruse his personnel file, which I recently found in my office, his junior high report card is contained in the file, and I'll show you it right here. He was a handsome fellow too. I don't know if you can see that, but in a sea of C's and D's and even a couple F's, what I found really interesting was that his 1A was in boys cooking.
Just a fun class. You know, actually you'd make something every day, and you know, maybe it was we made baked Alaska one day, but you know, I'd take some down to my girlfriend that was in art class at the time, so you know, it was just very loose class, and I was good at it. So
the best food formulators in the United States have no formal training of any sort, so I guess it's probably that reason.
When he got the job as manager, up to then everything was pretty much on-the-job training, but he took it very seriously and got a little nervous. So he was all of a sudden spending a whole lot of time at the library. And I said, honey, why don't you take a class? And he says, because I don't think I'd fit into a class. I think I would probably blow it. And he didn't want to I don't think he wanted to see what his grade would be. That's probably what it was. So he, for a year or better, he was at the library a lot.
One of the things that I do is give tours of plants. You know, this one and the one that we had on Kennedy Street. And we would take people through, and if you remember whiteout, every desk in America had 2 or 3 bottles of whiteout on it for every mistake you made. So I would bring these tours through, and I'd be very, you know, straight about it. This is how we do this is how we do that.
I had made up 2 175 bottles, and I colored one, and one that I had put some, that we used as a coloring agent was this white cloud to make it look kind of like whiteout, and I had those sitting on our tanks.
One of the people, sure as hell, they saw it, and what is that?
And they said, really? You can fix products with this stuff?
You know, even here at Phillips, we sometimes make mistakes, and you gotta fix it. And they didn't know whether to believe me or not.
We used to solve most of the company issues in my garage with a couple of cans of Grain Belt. And it actually got to be quite a well-known place from the outside people, but they were not allowed to be in to be there. And I know a lot of the executives here were always asking how they could get in on these garage meetings.
1976, it seems like, was a particularly good year for Jim. Again, I'll read from a letter of commendation. He was awarded a $10 check for making a recommendation that improved the operations of the company. A letter from Don Sievertson. Barney Barnett has informed me of your suggestion regarding the installation of a hot water line to the area near the sugar mixing tank. We recognize that this suggestion will help you to keep the sugar mixing area clean and will contribute to the overall improved housekeeping of our plant. And that was a $10 check in 1976.
When I went into the area where they were making the products, they used to have a guy that they called the sugar dumper, and that was me. And all you were supposed to do was go back and keep the sugar tanks full, and you dump 100-pound sacks. So you'd dump 10,000 pounds of sugar a day. It was no big deal. But I got to start making, the two guys that worked back there liked me, and they showed me some different things, and I started making products, and that sugar dumping thing became a sideline.
1980 was not as good of a year. He left for his lunch break 15 minutes early one day and was reprimanded and docked for 15 minutes of pay by Mary Loughlin. The next year, 1981, he submitted his resignation notice, which I can show you right here, in which he articulates his reason for resigning, and I quote, because Edward Phillips has asked me to accept a management position within the company. Because of my experience as a youth torturing frogs, Edward feels that I may be able to help him improve the productivity of his managers. Special emphasis will be placed on my program, quote, The Painful Way to Productivity. That's where his personnel file comes to an end. There have been a number of remarkable people in my life who've made an impact on me professionally and personally, many of whom are represented behind me in some of the photographs on my wall. You'll note there's one of Jim Aune, who has literally been one of the most important people to ever work for this company, which is why I honor him right here on my wall. He was also one of the lead strikers in 1973.
One of the funny things that did happen in that is my dad went home every night at the particular time where I had to be there picketing, and he went out and got in his car, and I just went over to say hi to him. And I just jokingly was swinging at his windshield with the sign, and somebody inside, because I was on night shift at the time, had no idea who I was. They were ready to call the police because somebody's out there beating up Eddie Aune.
I've only heard rumors of how Patty and Jim became one. There was a cot on the third floor of the old Phillips building in northeast Minneapolis that was rumored to have played a role. Whether that's true or not, only Patty or Jim could probably tell you.
We talked about a lot of things, but sometimes we didn't hit on some of these more personal things like that, and I didn't realize that there really was even a great deal of interest there going on. And actually, if anything, there was a girl in that office before Patty, and I thought that he paid probably a little more attention.
We actually worked together for 2 years before we started dating, 2.5 years. We were friends. He was dating someone, I was dating someone, and we had a big group of people. We were all friends and we did things together. And then his relationship ended, my relationship ended. And I'm not quite sure when it happened, but it's like one of those things where one day you just sort of look at somebody differently.
We went to a company function one night and just started talking, and the next thing you know, we were going out. And we started dating in 1984. And at Phillips, there is no such thing as a secret. We kept it a secret.
Julia knew, Danny knew, but we didn't want people to, we just figured it would be best. He wasn't my boss or anything, but we just thought it would be best, to just keep it private. And then as time went on, we just never thought about it, really. We didn't tell people, but we didn't really, after a while, keep it really secret. It's just somehow people didn't figure it out.
And we sent out the marriage announcements, and people were just floored.
I know because of their eventual marriage, the company had to substantially redo its human resources policy. Jim's home is in the laboratory. His sense of humor is a part of every product that he makes. I'm not convinced that I know about every item that goes into every one of his products, because there's always a special something, Jim's special sauce, his secret sauce, that makes everything kind of special.
He has the enthusiasm of a 20-year-old, all the energy, all the attitude that we're going to have fun and we're going to make a good product in the process.
If he wants to know a product is going to be good, he'll bring it home, and if I say I don't like it, he's like, oh, we got a winner.
He listens to all of our ideas. We're all from different age groups, genders, so we bring a different perspective to all the products.
Jim always hammered this in. They go for the best. Don't worry about cost of things. Make sure it's the best product.
Anybody who's got a good idea and wants to put it on that whiteboard, we try it.
Everything created for the last 20, 30 years, frankly, has come from Jim's laboratory and oftentimes from his own head. We call him Sir Mix-a-Lot. My wife Corinne refers to him as Giamatti.
She said, I got one for you. What's Giamatti's last name? And he's, who's Giamatti? And it comes from the fact, if I pick up the phone, I said, Giamatti. And she thought it was Giamatti.
Some of the country's most exciting, successful products, from root beer schnapps back in the 1980s, to recreating UV vodkas, to playing a role in the development of Belvedere and Chopin vodkas. So many products have his name on it and his mark on it.
Ultimately, his baby is root beer schnapps. That was his claim to fame, the first in the country to formulate it. And when he suggested they make it, they weren't too thrilled.
I was born in the lab on Kennedy Street, and I'd asked for some other flavors, in particular wintergreen, and this came in, and it tasted very much like root beer. So I doctored it a little bit, and it was even more like root beer, and really was root beer. And so I showed it to the marketing people. They absolutely laughed. You've got to be out of your mind, and take that out of here. Well, we kept a bottle down in the lab because every now and then somebody wanted some, and it was literally a year before they came up, and he took a taste of it, and he set the glass down and looked at it, and he said, this is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life, but go ahead. And we put it in the bottle, and it didn't take long to find out that it was not stupid at all.
It was the first product that Phillips sold outside of its traditional marketing area, and was kind of the coming out party, if you will, for us and for Jim. Since then, he's invented every one of our most successful products. UV vodkas, which will sell 1 million cases for the first time. First time we've ever sold 1 million cases of a brand in this company's history will be this year.
Being part of the Sour Puss products, which are so prominent in Canada, going up to Canada and actually seeing those products on the shelves up there to the degree that we saw them, because it's a huge, huge brand up there. All of the UV flavored products. Anytime I go down to the bottling line, and they're running the blue raspberry, for instance, and you see 200 feet of conveyor belt with your product on it, and you know they're going to run it for about 4 hours. That's fun.
He's always willing to improve and to improve himself and do things right. So that drive made him what he is.
You want to take pride in what you do. That's the real fun of being in this room and making these products. Is you can be proud when you see it on a shelf.
His hard work has afforded us a lot of good things in life, and Phillips has. So I'm just really, really proud of him and thankful for Phillips.
I only hope that he'll be around for the next 40 years, so that he will be developing products for the 8th generation of this family to work in the business.